26.14 was a relatively smaller patch, but there have been some significant meta-shifting changes as Mordekaiser is now one of the best top laners, Corki is back for ADC, and mages have seen a monstrous spike in play rate down bot lane. So we've got all this and more to cover in today's video as we provide you guys with an update to the solo queue tier list for every single role. Throughout the Rift, 5 distinct species engage in a daily struggle for survival. The top laner, exiled to the furthest reaches of the Rift, forced to survive alone in the most unforgiving territory. The jungler, perpetually torn. Should he hunt, or should he feed? Every choice, the wrong one. The mid laner, keeper of the Rift's most fertile ground, forced to defend his territory from constant invasion, even from his own kind. The ADC, a fragile creature in his most vulnerable life stage. He needs only time, yet his pack is determined to ensure he never gets it. And the support, the most tragic creature on the Rift, whose species' survival rests entirely in the hands of others. And yet, despite their struggles, a single discovery could change their fates forever. SkillCapped's brand new Season 16 Essentials courses for every role, designed to guide you through every stage of life on the Rift, from the very first wave to the final team fight. Each course split into easy and digestible chapters, each focusing entirely on what that species needs to thrive, the exact pain points, the exact fixes, the exact path to the rank you were always meant to reach. And remarkably, you can do it all completely risk-free, as should you somehow fail to climb at least 5 divisions while actively using our service, you get every penny back. Get your one-time exclusive discount using the link in the description or pinned comment below. So the one champion we were wrong about this patch as to how much power he would gain as a result of his buffs was Mordekaiser, as he shot up in power dramatically. Mord's R shred was increased from 10 to 13% and his E damage went up too. Stat steal from R is likely the one we underestimated because going from 10 to 13% is actually quite significant in the later stages of the game, and because it affects so many different stats. You reduce the enemy's AP, attack speed, max health, armor, and magic resist, so all of those being affected by 3% has turned out to be quite massive. You just stat check even harder now when your R is up, so the champ becomes even more consistent if you're playing around that R cooldown. Even Riot probably didn't expect for the buff to land this significant, considering his win rate has shot up over 3%. So Mord is now tracking as one of the best, if not the best top lane champ in the entire game for 26.14, and we are bumping him up into the OP tier to reflect that. So the Mordekaiser buff was the only super relevant change coming out of the top lane for 26.14, as Garen and Jace were also adjusted, but their relative strength have not shifted due to the changes. Garen is still up in the S tier, and Jace is down in the C tier as one of the worst top laners for solo queue. With the Mordekaiser buff landing as impactful as it has, he is now the lone OP top lane champ for solo queue. Nobody else even comes close to matching the strength of Mord in the majority of ranks, so he stands alone. Master tier and above, he's not as egregious because counter picks matter more, but for Diamond and below, there's nobody better for 26.14. Now that Locke has been out for over a patch, it is clear he is more suboptimal as a top laner. Despite mid lane really thriving in 26.14, top lane Locke is still sitting down below a 48% win rate, so he's not unplayable by any means, but there are so many better options to choose instead of him. We noted that we'd need to keep track of how the Jack of all trades nerf landed, as that could influence the rune pages for Aurelia, Fiora, and Riven, but with the nerfs now on live servers, it's clear they don't really mean a whole lot, so continue running Jack of all trades. So for an update on the jungle tier list, a lot of our predictions going into the patch have played out. We didn't think the nerfs to Protoplasm Harness would significantly influence Nasus or Rammus's power and meta, and we were correct on that, so both champs remain up in the OP tier. The Rocket Belt adjustments were the ones we were a bit less confident on, but now that they have been out for a few days, it's looking like they've been rather unimpactful. Nidalee is a big Rocket Belt user, and she didn't lose any win rate from 26.13 to 26.14. We had preemptively moved Nidalee down into the jungle B tier for pre-patch because we thought the nerf would hurt her, but seeing that it has not, she's back in the A tier. Sylas rushes Rocket Belt, and his win rate went down by a measly 0.2%. So if you were a Rocket Belt user in 26.13, then there's no reason to drop the item due to the nerfs in 26.14. As a matter of fact, the win rate of the item actually went up a bit on mages prior to last patch, and this could just be due to lower sample size so far, but what we're seeing as a whole is that Riot did not do enough to nerf the item so that it's no longer a viable pickup. In regards to the Locke jungle, he's seeing more play than he is up in top lane, but performing even worse. If you want to play Locke, then mid is by far his best role, as his jungle win rate is down around around 44%, which is just not even at a playable level. At least top is playable, but jungle is extremely bad, so we've got him down in the C tier, but should honestly be in a tier below that if we had one. And then you'll notice we have one new addition to the jungle S tier as Mordekaiser slots in. Mort is just super OP after his buff, and even though he's more of a niche jungler, he's tracking as a great pick for this patch, especially for the lower elo, so we've got him as a top 3 low elo pickup for 26.14. For mid lane in 26.14, we were pretty spot on with our prediction for Locke. Even though the champ got nerfed, he actually gained in win rate because of the fact players are optimizing the champ more. As a matter of fact, Locke is actually outperforming super hard right now and is the must pick or ban mid laner. So we are giving him an additional push up into the OP tier, as he will be the 1 OP tier mid for the patch. If you guys are looking to pick Locke up, then we've got a few brand new full game commentaries for him up on our website for all 3 roles that he's being played in, so those can really help you get started on the champ. As noted when covering jungle, the Rocket Belt nerfs have turned out to be quite measly. We predicted going into the patch that mages wouldn't like the item at all anymore, but it turns out we were wrong in that assumption. Mages are still performing very well with Rocket Belt slotted in as a second item, so in games where you think the dash is very valuable to have, it's still worth building. Azir ended up receiving a bunch of buffs for this patch with how he interacts with certain items and runes, but those changes have not increased his overall power level by a significant amount, so we continue to have him down in the C tier. Mid lane is pretty polarizing right now because there are actually a ton of really suboptimal champions who have been over nerfed for solo queue due to pro play. We usually don't see this very often, but there are 3 champs sitting below 47% win rates, with Orianna, Azir, and Mel struggling to find any success after repeated nerfs. Moving down to the bot lane now, we saw Corki and Yannara buff for this patch, and as expected, the changes didn't really influence either champ's spot in meta. Neither are S tier worthy, but Corki is now slotted into the A tier, and with the buffs to his R, it's made a full crit setup a lot stronger. Essence Reaver into the Collector and Infinity Edge is Corki's best performing build in 26.14, so give it a shot over the Trinity Force build. Corki's R recharge rate gets reduced whenever he auto attacks, and how much it's reduced scales off crit chance, so the more crit Corki has, the more he's able to spam out his rockets in fights. Mage's bot just continued to shoot up in play rate patch after patch, as we are now seeing Ziggs picked in over 6% of games. That's an insane play rate for a mage bot, as even when Ziggs was meta in the past, I don't think his play rate ever got this high. We've also got Seraphine, who's the most OP mage, sitting up over a 3% win rate. Xerath is over 3%, Syndra is above 2%, and there are a handful of others sitting around the 1% mark, so mages are being spammed right now. For good reason though, as literally every single one of them is S tier, so if you do want to climb from the bot lane, then they are great champs to choose. One way that you can look to counter mage bot is by playing a super aggro bot lane duo who can all in very well. Tristana is arguably the best ADC in this regard because she can dive in and burst really hard, and if you pair her up with a Nautilus or Leona, then you'll have the best chance at bursting out that squishy mage if you can CC them early on in lane. And then as expected going into the patch, the nerfs to Seraphine and Senna have ended up rather negligible, and therefore they continue to be rated as the highest priority bot lane carries for 26.14. And then for support, just a few minor adjustments to the tier list, as Thresh is now going to lock down the only OP tier slot for the role. Seraphine and Senna nerfs have hit the relative power of both champs a bit harder in support than ADC, just because they were not performing quite as good prior to the nerfs in the support role. For instance, Seraphine as a bot carry was a unanimous OP tier champ in 26.14 with a win rate around 55%, so with her win rate dropping by 2%, it doesn't really affect her strength for bot since she's still sitting above all other champs. For support though, Seraphine wasn't finding the same kind of insane success, so a drop in win rate is enough to force her out of the OP tier and down into S. Still a great pick, as there's really no reason at all to drop Seraphine or Senna if they have been in your support champion pool as of late. Nami was the one support who got buffed for this patch, and she is now back to being one of the better solo queue enchanters. Players are actually finally adapting their builds on Nami too, which is helping her out quite a bit, as only 25% of players are rushing Mandate and about 40% are going for the correct Echoes of Helia. 40% is still honestly kind of low as the play rate for her most optimal item, so as long as you're building Nami correctly, she is an S tier support once again, so she's getting a bump up. But while lists like these show you what to play, our brand new Season 16 Essentials courses for every role teach you how to win, each designed to walk you through every stage of the game from start to finish. From the exact trading and recall timers you need to win lane, to the mid-game macro decisions 99% of players get completely wrong, all the way to the team fighting tips and tricks challengers abuse to always deal the highest damage possible. Whether you're a top laner in the most unfavorable matchup possible, a mid laner having to deal with everybody in your lane 24/7, a jungler trying to balance ganking with farming, an ADC stuck trying to hard carry with a support who just exists to grief you, or a support that's struggling to carry games on your own. Our Essentials courses are tailor-made to focus on the exact concepts that actually matter for climbing on your role in your elo. Check them out today, completely risk-free, using the link in the pinned comment or description below, as if you don't climb at least 5 divisions, you get every penny money back. So there you have it, everyone. A pretty small patch, so not a whole lot to update. But nevertheless, thank you all so much for watching. We'll see you in the next one.